at first he's a good catch. You know, he's a captain.
Well, she's led to believe that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's, you know, she's rapidly heading to being called a spinster.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
any catch is a good catch in the world that she lives in.
Yeah.
A catch is a catch.
Yeah, so you can see that it makes sense on some level.
And he's got a lot of money. I mean, from a certain point of view, why isn't he a good catch? He's got a job. He's got plenty of money. He can turn his intelligence to a lot of different things, including investing, and it all looks good, you know. It's when he gets on his hobby horse that he goes crazy. But he doesn't care about the other things, you know. Investing means nothing to him. He doesn't want to be a rich man. He wants to be Newton. He wants to be
right more than anything.
Right. He wants to be right. But also known for being right. You know, it doesn't matter if he's known for being right after he's dead, but he wants to be vindicated.
For an awfully long time, she's the very loyal wife. She types endlessly for him. She looks after the house. She does all the things that she's supposed to do. And I guess it's because of the times that it takes her a lot longer than it does us as readers to go, why are you doing this? He's such a dickhead.
Well, I had a little bit of an authorial dilemma because he really had to be a convincing a dickhead, if you want to use that term. He had to torment the reader a little bit, as well as Margaret. Now, I think that up until the death of the child, we don't understand what he's going to be like. So for me, there's 5 sections to the book. And for me, it was in the 3rd section. I gave myself some time in the 3rd section to allow him to torment the reader and Margaret at the same time. A character who helps her kind of not divorce herself, but separate herself a little bit from him, does come in right in the middle of the 3rd section. That's a guy named Pete, who's dodgy in his own way.
Because the weird thing is, on paper, he's terrible. I mean, you don't even know what... He's got this weird accent. Mm-hmm. It may be put on. It may be he's just had one accent, spent too long in another place.
She wonders
so he could be a
if
Russian
maybe
or Irish. Or...
He says he's Russian, and she wonders if maybe he's an Irishman putting on to be a Russian, you know.
And he disappears, and he's got dodgy things going on. He looks terrible on paper, except he really cares about other people. He's
empathetic and he's interested.
Yeah.
He's not going to make a commitment, but you know, he takes the time to actually listen and respond, and that's something that Margaret has very little of. From her friends who like the women in her knitting group and people like that, her friends and associates, she gets sympathy, but it's a particular type of woman's female sort of congregation that is a little bit judgmental and a little bit dismissive. She can't really open up to them. She has a cousin who's quite a fun person, who's based on a woman named Rose Wilder Lane, who was a libertarian journalist in the first half of the 20th century, and who I appropriated to.
So this is Dora?
Margaret's family. Yeah.
I really like Dora.
Dora's a lot of fun, and I hadn't really come up with a Dora type character until I was doing research into what small town life in central Missouri might be like. And here's this book turn-up called Old Hometown, and it was by the daughter of Laura Ingalls Wilder, who was Rose Wilder Lane. Now, Rose was way more famous in her day than Laura. And Laura was her mother. And after all those little houses on the prairie in the big woods, they ended up in Missouri, living in a small town. And Rose was one of the founders of libertarianism, and she had had a wonderful, and you look at a picture of her, she's kind of plain looking. I tried to make Dora look sort of like her. But there's a kind of spark about her. And she went off to Europe, and she had a great journalistic career, a very exciting journalistic career. And then she did what Dora does. She just threw up her hands and came home and wrote a book that is one of the founding books of libertarianism. And so I appropriated her. But she too is, there's no one really other than Pete who's willing to actually listen to what Margaret says and hear it. And so that's his ultimate charm, is that he can actually connect.
The book is Private Life. It's a novel. I've been speaking with the novelist Jane Smiley in Private Life, published by Knopf.